Welcome to the Bible Highlight Series. I created this Bible reading plan to help you see the major themes of the Bible. We're going to go through, in part 1, the entire Bible in a nutshell. So we're going to hit the main points and the main things. How I created this is I asked 30 people, from new Christians to theologians, what are the top 10 things they would include in the Bible. I took those things and I made them into a reading plan for you, and this is the Bible Highlight Series. The Bible is huge. It's over 600,000 words long, all divided up in 66 smaller documents called books, the books of the Bible. The Bible is set up in two different sections, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Now, this word testament, this is where we get the word testimony, testimonial, things like that. It's the idea of telling a story. So the Old Testament is a group of people's story and how they interact with God. The New Testament is the story of how these people interacted with God. Now, it's specific to say testament because there are two things that the Bible is not. The Bible is not a rule book, and it is not a textbook. It's not a rule book in the sense of, here's the things that you have to follow. If the Bible was a rule book, it would probably be written way easier to read and understand. The Bible is also not a textbook. It's not giving us exact facts about history. It's doing something else. The Bible can be very confusing because it's very, very deep. People can study this thing their entire lives and barely scratch the surface. I hope in this Bible Highlight Series that I make it a little easier for you to understand. So the first thing to do if you're going to read a Bible is pick a translation. This can be confusing too because there's a lot of different translations. In my opinion, there's 3 that stand above the rest. And that's the ESV, the NIV, and the NLT. The English Standard Version, the New International Standard Version, and the New Living Translation. I won't go into all the specifics of what makes these 3 translations different, but generally, the ESV is more literal to the text. So the goal of the ESV is to stick very closely to what was actually written, and then you have to do a little work interpreting what it means. The NIV, however, is a little easier to read. They interpret a little bit more for you, so you don't have to do the work of trying to figure out what it means. The NLT is probably the most readable of all of them. These translators really want to make the Bible readable. They really want you to understand what it is saying, so they do a lot of work interpreting what it means. Like I said, you can't go wrong here. Just pick either the one that's easiest for you to read or the one that most people around you are reading. For the Highlight Series, we're going to be reading from the NIV. That's what I read mostly, but it's really just because that's what I grew up reading. If you're going to understand the Bible, there's one thing you have to keep in mind the entire time you're reading. And that is that the Bible is a story about God. It may seem obvious, but people get this really confused. We often think that the Bible is about us, people. That what we're reading is supposed to be learning is about the people's reaction to God. And that's actually not true. What we really are trying to get out of the Bible is God's reaction to us. God is the main character of the Bible. Us humans and all the other humans in here are all just the side characters. And like I said before, the Bible is not a set of rules for a religion. It's a guidebook to a relationship with God. And all relationships are messy, and that's what we find in the Bible. Humans' messy relationship with God. The next thing that you need to know about the Bible is that there is more going on than what's on the surface. These biblical authors were geniuses. They were brilliant. And in every single scripture, there is layers on layers on layers of text with different meanings, different symbolisms, connecting to things in the future, connecting to things in the past. Every time you read the Bible, you can read the same verse over and over and over again, and you're going to get something different from it every single time. One of the best descriptions I've ever heard about the Bible is that it's like a diamond. Every way you turn it, you get a different sight. I've also heard it said about the Bible that we read the Bible, but the Bible reads us. So even if you read the same passage now and then read the same thing again in 10 years, you're going to get something totally different. Because God is speaking to you continually in different ways wherever you're at. It is important to note here, though, that these are real people. They do symbolize other things, but they are real people living in a real time in a real space. This goes the same with numbers. A lot of the numbers in the Bible are symbolic, but they're also real. Throughout the Bible, you're going to see especially numbers like 3, the number 7, the number 40. You're going to see these numbers a lot. And they are real numbers, but they also symbolize things greater. Don't get too caught up in all of this. Just know there's more going on than what's on the surface. The other thing to keep in mind while reading the Bible is that it follows a very clear pattern. Creation, fall, redemption. Later in the story, Jesus disrupts this pattern and adds a new element. So it goes from creation, fall, redemption to creation, fall, redemption, recreation. It ends the pattern and begins the pattern. But you'll see this cycle throughout, replaying itself over and over and over again. A lot of the times we as Westerners miss major themes in the Bible because most of the people in here are not the winners. Throughout all of the Old Testament, the Israelites are continually beaten down and beaten down and beaten down. And there are these major empires ruling over them. Whether that's Egypt, Babylon, or Rome, the Israelites are the slaves, are the lowest people on the totem pole. We as Westerners, for most of our history, have been on the top. So it's easy to miss themes because oftentimes our country is the bad guy in the story. The point I want to make here is that Jesus' culture, language, and family were not the dominant way of the time. So keep that in mind. Something that can also skew your reading of the Bible is that we know the ending. If you were reading the Bible during the time it was happening, you wouldn't know the ending. So all the characters in here, they're going to do things that make zero sense to us. You're like, why would they do that? And that's because they didn't know what was going to happen, but we do. So we have to give them a little grace. We know that Jesus wins, that he eventually comes and dies, and we know who even Jesus is. These people, especially in the Old Testament, didn't know that Jesus was coming. Even the disciples who followed Jesus for 3 years still totally missed it. So a question to continually ask yourself when you're reading is, what did these people know at this point? That will help you get past a lot of the very confusing cultural differences that we're going to find in here. My hope for this video series is that you will question the Bible deeper. I'm not trying to give you all the answers on what's going on here. I'm trying to give you a way to look at it that is different than you may have heard. Because I really truly believe 3 things about this book. 1, that the Bible is relevant to our lives now. The second is that the Bible is good for us. And the third is that the Bible is sufficient for us. There are so many different ways you could go or things you could believe or whatever. It's easy for us to just get caught in the wind. The Bible is grounded, it is good, it is relevant, and it is enough. It is enough to give us purpose and meaning for our lives. So I hope you enjoy the highlight series. I hope you get a lot out of it. Remember, I'll be answering questions at the end of every video. Feel free to send those questions in the comments or on Instagram. So I hope you enjoy the Bible highlight series. I'm actually doing this whole reading plan on the YouVersion Bible app. So if you want to follow along the plan, check it out on there under the Bible highlight series by Robertson.